Hi, this is Colin from Watch Off the Cuff. Today I'm going to do a battery change on this Timex. It's a friend of mine, Darren, who brought it to me, heard that I repaired watches, and of course I was happy to oblige. I think it's funny when people apologize for the watches that they like or wear. I don't care that it's a Timex. I think it's a cool watch, and I'm happy to help him with. So help him with doing the battery change. So anyway, so what I'm going to do first, just for easy access, is I'm going to open up this clasp, and probably the easiest thing to do is to just undo the small micro adjustment here, take out that spring bar so I have easy access to the case back. So this is a snap case back, so I'll end up using a case knife to open it up. And sometimes if it's tough, I have a case or a snapback case opening tool from Horatech that I can use if it's particularly tricky, but hopefully we'll be fine this time around. So anyway, here I have my case knife, and I typically just take a cloth and hold the other side of the watch here. Now there is the index is right here. Quite often when you turn over a watch like this, there's an index up here. And I always like to remind people when using a case knife, it is a push, not a pry. So I've got the index mark here. I'm going to simply just push straight in. You see, since I'm not prying, I don't lose purchase and then scratch the back of the case. So I push in here. We've already got, now since I've already opened it up, I can pry a little bit, but again, I'm under no tension. And we can open up the case back. So here we are. So in this case, we have a retainer in here. Sometimes, depending on how hard the spring loading is on the crown indexing or the spring action here, especially with divers where it has a spring action and it screws down, you can relieve the tension on the movement by just opening up that crown a little bit. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room when you take this retainer out. In this case, we have to because it's covering the battery. So I'm just taking a little bit of pegwood here. I'm just going to like hold down the movement itself because I don't move. And there's some handy dandy notches there for that very purpose to take it out. So we'll take that out and put it there. And next, we will undo this screw a little bit so that we can open up this arm, this little spring action that holds in the battery here. So I'm just going to come in here and try to get my face a little bit close to it change my glasses, as the camera is in between me and the watch itself, which is a little unusual. So I'm just gonna give it a quick turn and just loosen it a little bit. And then there is a small index mark right here. It's like a little dimple. So something to be very careful here. Number one, I'm using a polyamide stick, nothing sharp. And then you can just process and then move it slightly away and see it just pops out. What you don't want to do is slip and by mistake touch that coil. Once we do that, we've damaged that coil and the watch will not work. All right, so I'm just going to check out and see what the actual battery in it is. And it says it is an SR626SW. Very common. Again, I'm going to switch glasses. And I've got a little chart just right out of view right here, just so it's easy. I also have one of those wheels that you can use to cross-reference. Where are you? It's because I'm under pressure and I think I'm on video. It takes me a minute. It's a common one. It's either going to be a 364 or, there we go, a 377. So I'm going to go to my trusty drawer. We're going to grab some 377s here. Grab that out there. As you notice, I'm wearing finger cots. I can make sure that under no circumstances am I touching any part of the movement, including the battery. It's just good practice. The oil from your hands will, once it sits for a while, will permanently etch itself. So I'm just going to do the operation in reverse. I'm going to open that up. It's back and secure it in there. Now, if it's safe to do so, I maybe gently hold in the movement there just a little and do a quick check. See, we have we don't have a ticking watch. This is great. You're thinking, why is this great? So this happens, from time to time, and we have a couple of tools we can use to see what's going on. Oh, now part of this sound like a rookie. So first of all, let's I've got a theory about why it's not working the way we want it to. So let's push this down here. And I remember I pulled out the crown. So let's pull in the crown. It may have hacking, which means that when you pull out the crown, it stops. So there it is. So now what I would do normally if I pushed in the crown and it wasn't working, I would use this device called a Horatech Pulse. And you can see here, it is listening to the impulses going to that coil there to drive the hands. And this way I'll be able to tell, is it an electrical problem or a mechanical problem? Meaning that if I was getting the pulse, but the hand was still not moving, that we had a mechanical problem with the gear train that was driving the wheels itself. So anyway, so that is good. I don't know, I guess the lesson there is whatever you do, don't panic. And I'm going to take a little bit of Rotocoat. I'm just going to clean up the seal here. Some of it's a bit gunky, and this is where a little bit of pegwood can come in handy. I'm just going to run it on there. I'm just going to scrub off some of that built up dirt, and we're going to use some Rotocoat to get rid of it and make sure it doesn't go into the movement itself. So we'll get that clean. Next, I will remove the gasket here very gently. Again, I'm using this polyamide stick here to use it, so I don't crease or wreck the gasket itself. It looks like it is broken, which is another great opportunity to show what I would do in this case as well, which sometimes happens because we've brought the case knife in, and under there we've pressed against that gasket and it's broken. So maybe I did it, and or maybe it was there previously and from a previous battery change. So anyway, so now we can take our calipers. Go figure, we thought it was just going to be like a regular run-of-the-mill battery change here. So we got 31 and a half approximately. I usually, what I'll do is I'll get a 30 millimeter inner diameter because I want it to hug in there pretty well. And then the nice thing is sometimes if they're falling apart, they're so disintegrated you can't check at all. But let's take a look and see what the diameter is. We can see, well, we just check, try not to squeeze too much. So it looks like, I'm just moving it around here, it looks like it's a 0.4, so this is great. So I can go to the my gasket set, which I'm going to grab. Good thing it's not too far away. And I have a gasket assortment here, and we're going to go on the 0.4 side, and we are going to see about getting a 30 mil gasket. So I've got some right here. And we're going to pull that out. And I'm just going to visually compare it. Again, it's hard to tell sometimes on the gaskets itself. Like if you take a look here, that looks pretty thin compared to the other one. So even though we measured it, it was probably compressed in there, and I don't like the look of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll up to a 0.6 at 30 mil, and then see whether that's going to fit a little bit better. Let's see what we got here. Just running through my wad of gaskets. I hope you don't mind hearing me talk while there's nothing on the camera. All right. So let's take a look at this one here. So this is 0.6. And it's looking a lot. It looks actually what it was. It might be a 0.5. Let's just check a 0.5 just to say we did. Again, if it's too thick, it's not going to, okay, so here's a 0.5. If it's too thick, it might prevent the gasket or the case back from closing really nicely. So I'd like to get it, again, we're being really picky here. So again, but this one isn't flattened out yet, so I don't know. I think I'm going to go with the slightly thicker 0.6. I think that's going to end up doing a better job. So anyway, so we will get, I'm going to go back, change my mind again, and go back to the 0.6. So here we are. And what I'll do first is I'm going to lubricate that. And we'll get to that in a minute. And while I've got the Rotoco here, I'm going to clean this surface as well. Grab this gasket. And we'll stretch it over again. We're size it just a little bit too small, so we get a good stretch and we get a good seat on there. So I pull it around, don't roll it over, because I don't want the gasket or the O-ring to be twisted on there. So there, it looks quite nice. And then the question is, I feel like we're like I'm bringing out every like horse in the stable. If it's not tight, I'll be able to just pop it closed easily. But it isn't. It's tough. So I will get my case press, and we will press it back with the case press. All right. So I'm gonna grab that. Again, it's a good thing it's close by. Here we are. All right, move this stuff out of the way. Wonder if we can do this all in one camera angle. Okay, so first thing first, we need to check. Get this out of the way. Oh, it's turned into a bit of a mess, isn't it? Okay, so we'll turn this around here. And we're gonna get a die that's gonna fit around the outside of this, this bezel. So we're gonna get rid of these guys here. Don't need that. Don't need that. Bring my drawer of goodies for dies. Let's do a couple of comparisons here. So that fits very nicely and is just on, just touching the bezel and not the glass at all. So we'll do that. Screw that on. And we'll pick another one that'll match the outside diameter of the case back itself. I like to go just a little bit smaller so I can clearly see that it's lined up. But again, as long as it's relatively close, it should be fine. So we'll do that. Now this Delrin isn't going to scratch steel, but I just prefer that I always put a cloth down anyway, just in case. It's just good practice in my opinion. So I'm going to bring this around this way so I can operate it right-handed. Can we keep it? Oh, there we go. So we'll do that. And then I usually have it pointing crown out. And then there's a little index mark. I'll show it quickly here. It'll tell you where it's going to go. So right there's that index mark. That's going to go over the crown. The idea is that the case back is not going to press down into the stem. Quite often, the case backs don't get anywhere near it, but it's just general practice. It also helps you orient it. It'll orient the writing on the back of the case back so it's in the right position as well. So we'll give that a pop. Sometimes you get a satisfying clunk. This time it was no such luck. So we've got that back. I'm just doing a visual inspection to make sure that it's completely seated. And I'm going to grab my loop. It looks really good. A little extra debris there. I just want to get rid of this stuff. And we'll just give it a little bit of a wipe. Get that in camera. I just like that case back and that to look really clean when we're done. Okay, so we've got that done. We need to put this bracelet back together. Move this out of the way. All right. We'll get the spring bar here. Sometimes these do go flying across the room, which is sometimes unfortunate. The thing is the spring bars that usually go into these clasps, the shoulder on the end is very short. So if you do lose one, that's just that first shoulder. If you do lose it, if you use a generic one, you sometimes have to file down the ends or else it sticks out. So we'll place it there. We'll just grab the shoulder, in it goes. Check to make sure it's clicked on the other side. Great. Now we can go ahead and set it. It is a little after 11 o'clock. 20 after 11 to be exact. And away we go. We are back in business, and I can return this watch to my friend Darren. Okay, here's a classic. No one's going to know, but I'm going to know. So I ended up coming back after I finished off the video there and going, wait a minute, did I screw down that screw on the clip? I've already done it, but I thought to myself, you know what, for transparency, again, like, you know, I'm not used to talking about everything that I'm doing while I'm doing it. I came back and tightened this screw so that it was tightened again because I loosened it. Now, in practical terms, it could have stayed that like half a turn or one turn too loose. It would have never sprung out. But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, but I know that it wasn't right. And that really bugs me. So for anyone who caught that, maybe no one would have ever noticed that that's what happened. But somewhere along the line is going to be like, hey, wait a minute. He closed up that watch and didn't re-torque the screw on the little spring clasp that holds in the battery. And just for the record, I realized my mistake, came back and fixed it. Cheers.